I'm listening.
Stay out of his life.
The Many Saints of Newark is the prequel film to the iconic series The Sopranos. It's finally here. It's in theaters and also on HBO Max. A look at the formative years of New Jersey gangster Tony Soprano. I was absolutely excited for this film. It was one of my most anticipated films this year. I love The Sopranos. It's one of my favorite series of all time. It just has great characters and great drama. It's nearly flawless. And I heard all the creators of the show were coming back to make a prequel film. I was instantly in. And don't worry, in this review, I'm not going to spoil the movie or even the show. I'm going to stay away from spoilers for everything. I'm just going to talk about the film, how it is as a film, and also how it is as a prequel to one of the best series ever made. I first want to talk about the casting because they nailed it. The cast was spot on to play these younger versions of these iconic characters. I mean, Sylv, Pauline Jr. were spot on. I was dying at some of the things that they were saying. It was so great to see those characters back. Michael Gandolfini plays Tony Soprano. He's the son of James Gandolfini, who played Tony Soprano on the show, and I think he did a great job. It's definitely a different version of Tony Soprano. He's not like this big scary presence. He's like a high school kid. And I think he did a great job with his mannerisms and just everything like that. But I think the most spot-on performance in this whole film was Vera Farmiga playing Livia Soprano, Tony's mother. She was awesome. I mean, spot on. The way she delivers her dialogue, her accent, her mannerisms, I mean, everything was so spot on. It was so believable that we're watching a younger version of Tony's mother. She absolutely killed it. I'll be honest, guys, it's going to be hard to review this film because I'm going to be pretty biased because there's a lot of things I absolutely loved, but that's because I love the series so much. And yes, this is what they're going for. It's a prequel to one of the best series ever made, and you absolutely need to watch the series before you watch this film. There's a lot of references that people just want to understand. The whole premise of this film, you just really want to understand if you haven't seen the show. With that being said, I feel like this film is paced pretty well. I was never really bored. I was excited to see these characters to be back in this world, the references back to the series. I thought all that was great. And for the most part, I thought the story of Diggy Moltisanti was pretty interesting. I do need to say, though, I think this film is horribly mismarketed. Yes, it's a Sopranos prequel, but how they marketed it made it seem like this is Tony Soprano's origin story. Yes, Tony Soprano's in it, but not as much as you think. It's really about Diggy Moltisanti. He's the main character of this film. I knew that going in, just because doing research, and I was very excited for this film. I knew it was going to be mostly about Diggy Moltisanti. And Moltisanti means many saints. Title of the movie, there you go. But I don't know, the way they marketed this film made it seem like Tony Soprano is going to get his full origin story, to be focused on him, and it is not at all. He is not in the movie as much as you think. I'll say it like this. Say this is a timeline right here. Sopranos takes place here, 1999 and on. And then The Many Saints of New York takes place here, in like the late 60s, I think. I would say right here is where we would get the Tony Soprano origin story, like how Tony Soprano became Tony Soprano. Here is the Diggy Moltisanti story, which is fine. Like I said, I thought it was pretty interesting. I guess what I'm trying to say is if you go into this film thinking it is a full-blown Tony Soprano origin story, you're going to be disappointed. Yes, there are some things we learn about Tony as a high schooler, as a kid, things like that, but it's not a full-blown origin story. This is really about Diggy Moltisanti. With that being said, honestly, guys, I was pretty disappointed with this film. I'm not saying it's bad by any means. I think it's all right. But a film to one of the greatest series of all time just being all right is just disappointing to me. I guess my issue with this film is we learn a lot about Diggy Moltisanti. That's really about it. You don't really learn anything new about the characters that you've grown to love in the original series, and then overall as a story, you just don't really learn anything new about anything. I had fun watching this film because of all the Soprano references and all the characters and everything like that, but the more I think about it, if this was just a normal crime drama, and you take all the Soprano stuff out, this would probably be a snoozer. There's really nothing too interesting going on besides the Soprano elements in this film. Like when the film was over, by the way, I love the last shot of the film, but when it was over, I was sort of like, I guess I just watched that. It wasn't like I was blown away or anything like that. I was just sort of like, oh, I guess I just watched a film. I know that doesn't really make sense, but to me it makes sense. It might make sense to you what I'm trying to say. I was just sort of like, all right. I guess I just watched a movie. Like, I don't know. It just felt like there was something missing here. Like, they had all these great ideas for this film, but there was just something big missing. I really don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say without spoiling anything, but it just felt like the movie felt somewhat unfinished in a way. Like, not in the editing or the production or anything like that. It just felt like there was something big missing. And it also felt like they were trying to condense a lot of things into a 2-hour movie when you could have probably made this into a miniseries. Honestly, they probably should have just made this into a miniseries. But I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions that obviously I won't spoil. And it seems like that they're going to set up for another movie or even another series, which I'm all for. That would be really interesting. But like I said, for this film itself, though, I don't know if it really works, and there's just something missing there. The Many Saints in Newark was a nice return to the Sopranos universe, but unfortunately felt somewhat underwhelming and somewhat disappointing. The casting is great, it's spot on, everyone does a great job. Vera Farmiga as Livia Soprano was definitely my favorite performance. I mean, she absolutely kills it. I thought the film was paced pretty well, I was never really bored. I thought the overall story, for the most part, of Dicky Montesanto was actually pretty interesting. This isn't going to go against my rating, but I do need to say I feel like this film was somewhat mismarketed. If you go into this film thinking that it's a full-blown Tony Soprano origin story, you're going to be disappointed because it's really not. I guess my biggest issue with this film is that sometimes relies on Sopranos nostalgia a little bit too much, but at the same time, it doesn't really bring anything new to the Sopranos. We don't learn really anything new about our characters or anything like that. Like, I was pretty much engaged throughout this whole film because of the Sopranos characters. I get it, it's a prequel to the Sopranos, so that's going to happen. But I'm just thinking about it, if they took away all the Soprano stuff and this was just a normal crime thriller, it would be pretty boring. This film is not bad by any means. It's still pretty good. I'm just somewhat disappointed because when you make a prequel film to one of the greatest series of all time, I expect something great. But it felt like there was something missing here. I just can't explain what it was. I'll give The Many Saints in Newark 7 Davy Daves. It definitely seems like they're setting up some sort of sequel to this, either a spin-off series or a spin-off movie, that I'm all for. Like I said, in this timeline I made, there's something probably really interesting in the middle. So I'm all for that. Please do that. I would be all in for that. So, The Many Saints in Newark. Let me know what you guys thought. If you've seen it, I'm curious to hear. And thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Dave's Takes.